Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is a no, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
It's you and the senorita. Woofer blowing up the tweeter, cause it's me up in the speaker. Knocking the mama see the top down like a player. And the sound up in your ears, it is the dopest rhyme say. Running game like a cheater.
So today I'm going to tell you how the riots in Milwaukee represent a tremendous opportunity for you. I'll say it again. I'm going to tell you how the riots in Milwaukee are a tremendous opportunity for you. But in case for some reason you missed it, yesterday, Sunday, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker declared a state of emergency in Milwaukee County and activated the state's National Guard in response to riots, violence, unrest in Milwaukee that broke out following the fatal shooting of a black man by cops. I don't know if you've kept yourself updated. I don't know if you've updated your riotous scorecards from the weekend, but it's not pretty. 24 officers in riot gear confronted about 150 people. They blocked off an intersection near the site of the shooting on Saturday of an armed man with a long criminal record. Bottles and rocks thrown at cops. An officer was injured after a rock broke through the windshield of his squad car. 4 more officers, I think, sustained some sort of injury on Saturday. Tom Barrett, who's a mayor, says a still image pulled from the officer's body camera clearly showed a gun in the 23-year-old Seville Smith's hand as he fled a traffic stop. That's how it all happened. It was a traffic stop, gun in hand. Man ran away. So what happened after that? What happened is riots broke out. Now, if you're like me, this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Zip, zing, nada. Like I said, 4 officers injured, multiple cars and businesses set on fire. Multiple cars and businesses set on fire. Shots fired. A beauty parlor, I think, burnt to the ground. Does it make sense to you? I'm going to go out on a limb and guess no. You're angry about something. You're angry about the shooting of a black man by a cop. Let's imagine for one moment that you are absolutely right about all of the above. Let's say this was a crime perpetrated by a racist cop with an itchy trigger finger that was just looking for an opportunity to gun down a black man. Let's just assume all of that is true for a second. In what world does it make any way, shape? Does it make sense in any way, shape, or form that you burn down a beauty shop, a gas station, a drugstore? It's like Ferguson, all over again. People angry to the point where they just want to break something. They want to destroy something. They want to burn something down. And what they wind up burning down is their own community. A community that was in lousy shape is in worse shape now. So like I said, this represents a big opportunity for you. How? Well, again, if you are like me, you absolutely don't understand any of this. It makes no sense to you whatsoever. You are a sane, thinking person. You are not a destructive person. You are not someone who's going to run through the streets and burn things when you feel as though you've been treated unfairly. You can't understand this point of view at all. So where's the opportunity? What do you think? We'll get there next.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Every day you're going and working, running that rat race and that pace and that place will leave a bad taste for anyone, everyone working day after day. So buddy, I gotta say, there's gotta be a better way, yeah. And you do what they told ya. Company man, feel it, a mindless little soldier. How can you live like that and maintain your composure before it's begun? Your life's already freaking over. Yeah, I do what I want.
So how does a riot in Milwaukee, the state of emergency that was caused for the National Guard to be called out, how does that provide an opportunity for you? I'm guessing it makes no sense. No sense whatsoever to you. And nor should it. Like I said before, let's assume for a moment that a black man was gunned down by a racist cop with an itchy trigger finger who was just looking to end a black person's life because they were a racist that was mistakenly given a badge and a gun. Let's say that was true. Burning down a local beauty parlor doesn't do a whole hell of a lot to rectify the situation. Does it? No, of course it doesn't. That's unquestionable. However, this represents an opportunity for you, for me, for people that look at this situation and go, this makes no sense, in a very real way. I don't know if you and I have ever talked about how I wound up with this show, but I wanted to do talk radio. I was this rock radio guy. Wound up on the radio because this kind of crazy punk rock band I was in that had been around the world a couple times since I was a teenager, put out records, started countless numbers of mosh pits, and caused trouble wherever we went. That was over and done with. The guitar player in the band looked at me and was like, I can't do this anymore. I've got a wife. I've got a kid. You're younger. You don't understand. But I just got an opportunity to play music every single day and be able to provide for my family. That's a unique thing. The guitar player in the band wound up being like the musical director of the Blue Man Group. And I was like, I can't stand in your way. That's an incredible gig. So I wind up on the radio because, you know, I've got no real applicable life skills and I need to do something. Professional big mouth then, professional big mouth now. So that made sense. But a couple years into being this rock dude, I started looking down the hallway at the AM talk shows. I always felt like, wow, they're having a lot more fun. They're being a lot more punk rock, and they're all driving much nicer cars than I am. I want to do some of that. That looks fun. That's cool. Let me at it. And so I asked for this gig that came up. And I was like, hey, look, here's my resume. Here's my ratings. Here's everything I'm worth to the people in this town. As you can see, I'm number one with a bullet across the board with pretty much everything that I do. You've got this empty slot. Give me a shot at it. Give me a shot at talk radio. I want to do talk radio. And I remember the program director of that station was like, I got to level with you. I was like, level with me how? He was like, you got the chops. You're talented. You can do all this stuff. No problem. No problem whatsoever believing in you. But I will never get the boys upstairs to go for it. Management will not accept the idea of you doing talk radio. I was like, why? You and I have both agreed that my resume speaks for itself. The quality of my work speaks for itself. He's like, yeah, but look at you. I was like, what do you mean, look at me? People can't see me on the radio. He's like, well, they can see you upstairs. They can see you when you walk through the hallways, and you look like this kid. You look like this kid that should be skateboarding outside of a 7-Eleven. You look like an overgrown 12-year-old. I was like, well, That's true, I suppose, but I don't see what that has to do with anything. It's like, it's just the way they feel. They're never going to go for it. I couldn't believe it. I've been marginalized, X'd out of something. Wasn't even given a shot at doing something that I was eminently qualified for. There was no better person available to do the job they were looking to fill. And because of the way I looked, I never got a foot in the door in that situation. I couldn't believe it. What do? Do I show up in a sweater vest? Do I cut my hair? Do I start wearing long pants to work? Hell no, I'm not going to wear long pants to work. I work really hard for a number of reasons, one of which is so I can wear shorts and flip-flops a lot. But I went to bed angry. And I woke up angry. And the next day I went to bed angry again, and I woke up angry, and I was mad for a week. And so I did something about it. I did something very important about it. I wrote a letter to the Grand Dragons of talk radio. I put a picture of me looking, as I said, like an overgrown 12-year-old that should be skateboarding outside of a 7-Eleven. I said, hey, I think I'm good. Here's my stuff. Listen to it. I've been told I'll never work in talk radio because I look like this and not like that. And next to the picture of me, I put a picture of Rush Limbaugh. Two more opposite-looking individuals on this earth, there are not. And immediately, almost immediately, I wound up with this show. And I've been doing it every single day for the last 4 years. I was able to rectify the situation. I was able to find a workaround. But for one teeny tiny second, I knew the unmitigated rage that goes with being rejected from a gig or anything in life because of your external experience and your outward appearance. I can't change who I am. Being a punk rock kid doesn't wash out. Probably be 50, 60 years old, and you'll be able to tell what I went through when I was 19 and 20. I don't think that's ever going anywhere. But I was able to circumvent the situation. But I knew the anger, I knew the rage, I knew the feeling of being marginalized, of being discarded, of being shut down and shut out of something that I was very passionate about wanting to do. And if I'm that angry because I wear a backwards baseball cap and have long hair, and I've had one little experience of that. If I'm this angry for that amount of time over that, what must it be like to be born into a color of skin? What must it be like to be born into a situation you have no control over? I'm a white male in America. I won the genetic lottery. I have no understanding of what it's like to be a person that is not white. Intellectually, I can imagine. I can talk to friends and say, well, you've experienced that? That's messed up. That's not okay. But I don't know what it does to who you are and your soul. So, I can already hear the complaints. Are you excusing this kind of violence? No. This kind of violence, burning down your own community, makes no sense. It is inexcusable. It is a crime. I view it as an act of terror. I think the people that did it should be persecuted to the full extent of the law. But nevertheless, it happened. So the tremendous opportunity for you and for me and for all of us who are not people that would burn down a beauty parlor in your own neighborhood because somebody else was shot. The tremendous opportunity for us is to move the ball of humanity further down the field by trying to understand how that happens, not excusing it, not saying it's okay, not in any way, shape, or form condoning it, but just trying to get some sort of understanding of how this is even possible in an existence that is light years from ours. The father of the Milwaukee criminal, shot and killed by cops, said he blames himself for being a bad role model to his kids. Patrick Smith, father of Seville Smith, said he's been in and out of jail and that he's been a lousy role model. He said, I just got out of jail 2 months ago, and I've been going back and forth in jail, and they see these things, so I'd like to apologize to my kids. This is the role model they look up to. I was a role model to my kids when they see the wrong role model. This is what you get. And in a strange moment of an unlikely cooler head prevailing, the father of the kid that was shot because he encountered cops, ran from them, had a loaded weapon. The cooler head that is prevailing is the father of the deceased. He pled with rioters to put drugs and guns down. He said, you must wake up and show them that we are smart too. It's chilling and illuminating. And like I said, the win in this situation, the win in any situation where you just don't understand, you can't understand, is trying to understand. You never have to agree. But just try to understand how someone got there might just help us overcome these divides. And I don't care if it's you're going to vote for Trump and you can't understand why people are giving you such a hard time for it. You're going to vote for Hillary and you can't imagine how anyone would vote for Trump. You might have a kid. I think this is a classic situation that plays out over and over again in the home. Mom, dad can't understand why the son or daughter would do what they're doing. Grown-ups forget what it's like to be a kid. A kid doesn't know what it's like to be a grown-up. I'm white. I don't understand what it's like to be black or anything other than white. I never will. That won't be my experience. Rich people don't understand what it's like to be poor. Poor people don't understand that when you're rich, you still have a lot of problems, which admittedly you might show up to in style. But it doesn't make those things go away. There are tremendous gaps of understanding, and they are wider than they've ever been before in America, in today's society. I think, in my lifetime. And while it might seem that people are getting dug in further and further from one another, people are taking opposing views sometimes to the grave, increasingly to the grave in this day and age. While this is happening, there is a tremendous opportunity for you. There is a tremendous opportunity for all of us. The wider the gap in understanding, the more of a victory it is when you start to understand. Not saying you take the tack of Alderman Khalif Rainey, who excused the actions of the rioters, saying they're tired of living under this oppression, saying nobody can deny that there are racial problems here in Milwaukee that have to be rectified. He treated it like a threat. He said, this is the warning cry. Where do we go as a community from here? Do we continue with the inequality, the injustice, the unemployment, the undereducation that creates these byproducts that we see this evening? Do we continue with that? Because if you don't, you are one day away from it happening again. Now, I'm not suggesting you excuse. I'm not suggesting you give people enough rope, but I am suggesting that you try and understand. Try and put yourself in the shoes of someone that has done this. It is lunacy. It is craziness. It is subhuman behavior. It is not part of a civilized society to burn a local business to the ground because of something that happened to someone else. But it does give you a tremendous chance to go, how does that happen? I'm trying to imagine. It's unthinkable to me. Try harder. Try and see how maybe this happens. 9 times out of 10, when this sort of unspeakable, unthinkable thing occurs, I can almost guarantee you that there's people there that feel like they're not heard, like they don't count, like they've been marginalized, like they've got no shot, like they've got no opportunity, that this is all they know. And no matter how hard they try, they're not heard. Now try and imagine how that happens. Like I said, we're not here to excuse anyone's behavior. We believe that these people should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But try for one moment to understand how something like this could possibly happen. There's humanity in the strangest places when you look for it, and I urge you to try and find it.
About 10 with puppies in my face.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. You do what we do. You do what we do. That's the way you do what we do.
Oh, snap! The Commission on Presidential Debates gearing up for potentially having Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson on stage. Yeah. Third party being invited to the big kids table. I genuinely hope this happens, regardless of how you feel about Gary Johnson, regardless of how you feel about any candidate. This, my friend, I think is an interesting, pivotal time in our society's history, and I really, really hope that we get another chance to take another listen to another point of view. I hope a light gets shined on the way the Libertarian candidate feels. There's been a Libertarian candidate in the game since 1971. That was the first time someone ran on the Libertarian ticket. And I'm not positive, but this might be the first time, if this happens, where a Libertarian speaks at the debates. And I think it will be a genuine eye-opener to have someone, anyone, other than a Republican or a Democrat, speak and have this sort of platform. We'll talk about all that and how that's going to happen. Right now, though, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser, is on vacation. So, in his place, Dave Hines will be joining us, producing the show that you hear for the next couple of weeks, and also guest reading the news. You ready? You ready, Dave?
Oh, yes.
There it is.
Doesn't it feel good? It
does.
Feels
it
good
really
to hear
does.
that sound.
Makes us feel like a real show.
Speaking of feeling good, you know, the Olympics on, Michael Phelps really had to adjust his training to stay competitive at age 31 now.
Yeah. There was that whole thing where Ryan Lochte was just like, hey, he's going to be in 2020. And he was like, no, I'm not going to be doing this at age 35 or whatever it's going to be. And he apparently really had to, between this Olympics and the last Olympics, when you're 31 years old and you're competing against 19-year-olds, there's some changes you got to make. He had to adjust his training. He had to adjust his diet. I think this included, the changes he made included things like endurance training, weightlifting, a healthy diet, and I believe switching from Acapulco Gold to Hindu Kush.
That's a good training choice.
He lost millions of dollars in sponsorship money when it turned out he was Bong Rippy the Clown. Like that did not go well for him. And then he had then he was charged with drunk driving.
Yeah.
I think he was driving while intoxicated, and he voluntarily showed up for his own rehab program. I will never forgive someone for driving while intoxicated. It's the worst possible thing that you could ever do, especially in the day and age. Well, I mean, if you're a gazillionaire athlete,
right,
you can afford the cab. But even if you can't afford the cab, get an Uber. It's now easier than ever to do the right thing with regard to drinking and driving.
Mm-hmm.
So that is unforgivable. But what is impressive is that he submitted and went back and he trained harder than ever before. He took a hold of his own life, and he did it. There's a great lesson in that for all of us, I think, that here's this guy who is, from an Olympic perspective, past it, that had tremendous difficulties in his life that he had to overcome between the last Olympics and this one, and he managed to have that kind of focus that I guess takes you to gold. Mm-hmm. And apply it to his own life, and it's inspiring stuff. And here's the thing: focus, yes, but who was it? I think it was Doug Stanhope who said that, he's a genetic anomaly.
Yeah.
Like, he's got flipper feet. He's like 7 feet tall. His torso is abnormally long. His arms are abnormally long. Of course he's going to win at swimming. He is a genetic anomaly. He's not like the rest of us. He is built to swim. He is almost certainly part fish. You know? So, like, there's no real competition. Like, Doug Stanhope said that I think if you're going to have a swimming competition with Michael Phelps in it, you might as well have another competition called taller. Which is like, guy's really going to have to want to. He's really going to have to want it to grow that extra 3/4 of an inch between now and the finish line. So, you know, you and I, we're never going to be able to swim like Michael Phelps, but we can take a hold of our own lives the way Michael Phelps did. What else?
I feel motivated now. Kendall Jenner has a new boyfriend.
Yeah. Kardashian kid sister, new boyfriend. I think he's like a Nobel Prize winning scientist working to cure famine in Africa.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Psych! He's a terrible rapper that spends all his time taking selfies in his Rolls Royce. No, you know. Go on.
Oh, dude, the next American Horror Story, it's going to be taking place in 16th century North Carolina.
Oh, no kidding. 16th century North Carolina. All the outhouses will have signs reading, "Transgenders not alloweth." Yea, verily, hey, nani, no. Hey, nani, no, don't go in there.
How many extra letters do they use? You know, when they write in Old English, they use a lot of extra letters. I don't know if you can fit it all in the outhouse.
Yeah. Yea, verily. Go on.
Verily. The WWE announced that they're going to include wrestlers who are gay.
Wait, they're going to include wrestlers who are? Huh.
This is going to start
but
now.
What about all the big burly guys in tighty whities oiling themselves up and wrapping their legs around each other's heads? It's not. I just put in some stuff that really. That's not okay. Huh. All right. Good for them.
They're getting around to it now.
Look, I mean, the whole being gay is one of those things that should be such a non-issue at this stage in the game. And you have to make these big announcements. We're going to have gay wrestlers, and everybody's got a backstory and a background and all this sort of stuff. And but the sooner it just becomes part of what we do, and part of what makes up people being people, and stops being an issue, man, the more man hours we've got left to move the world forward. Like, it's so silly to me that we spend any time whatsoever on this. You know, like, if you got a problem with gay people or gay marriage, there's a very easy way around that. Don't marry a gay person. Don't have a relationship with a gay person. You'll be fine. You know, that it's their life, not yours, and you can move on with things. Now, I know I set the cat amongst the pigeons when I say this sort of stuff, but it's the thing is like that. This is part of the dialogue that we have to waste productive man hours on this sort of thing is beyond me. Think of all the campaigning that had to be done just to get to this stage in the game, and now think of how now we're there, how productive that time, how productively that time can be used moving forward. It's a big deal, and I hope that more and more of this sort of thing starts happening so we can stop thinking about it.
Days like this when I feel untouchable, I try and make up for all the wrongs I did by living my life like a Cosby kid, jamming on the one like Theo and Stevie. I know it sounds crazy, but you gotta believe me when I feel like I just
Now, more AD on the radio.
back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again, nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again, nobody rock a party better than me.
Alrighty then, we'll talk about the fact that the political table is being set for Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, to be a part of the conversation when it comes time to debate presidentially, and let the let the candidates of note whip their opinions out and see who's bigger in the run-up to pulling the lever for democracy and figuring out who's going into the White House. Gary Johnson sounds increasingly likely that he, the Libertarian candidate, is going to be part of the conversation and part of the debates moving forward, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that happens and what that means a little later on. Right now, though, let's roll through through what remains of the news with super producer to the stars, Dave Hines, filling in for Barry Funkhauser, who is off on vacation in New England. I saw that he tweeted something or was on Facebook or something like that. He was like, I said to Canadian Jane, are we outside? Are we in a terrarium? Is there a sunroof somewhere? And she's like, no, that's just what the air is like here. Welcome to New England.
Yes. Humidity.
Humidity, but it's really nice. I love New England. I really, Funkhauser is on a mission, I think, to get us an affiliate in New England. I would love that. I've got friends, family, and loved ones in Massachusetts, and it would be great to be a part of what is going on there in these especially interesting times. What else is going on in the world, Hines?
Well, speaking of interesting, visitors to Donald Trump's resort have actually plummeted, though, since his campaign.
Right.
That's what they're
Likewise,
saying.
since Hillary started running business down at Dress Barn.
Oh!
However, pantsuits are us way up. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's a
People
great
haven't
store.
thought about. Yeah. I could see that. When you ever been to a Trump resort?
I've been to one of the buildings, but not the resorts.
I used to go gamble at the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City when I lived in New York. And it's interesting. I don't know if it would affect my decision, my judgment to go in there. Probably just because he gets on TV and says, like, just so we're clear, I've got this many billions of dollars in the bank account, and it would just that sort of ostentatious showiness with your own money would lead me to go, well, I'm going to go give my money. I'm going to go lose my cash at the casino that helps out the down and out Harris folks. They're all going to win and I'm going to lose, but still, it's I guess you vote. There's so many, and I'm not saying that. I am one of the few people. Donald Trump's been railing on the media recently, saying that if it wasn't for the media, he'd be 20 points above Hillary Clinton, that he wouldn't be sliding in the polls. He's not running against the Democrats. He's not running against Hillary. He's running against the media. And I think I am one of the few members of the media to give Donald Trump a consistently fair crack of the whip. Why? Well, it goes back to what we were talking about. Look, there might be a divide in thinking and understanding, but there's people I know and love and respect that have political views that vary and differ from mine in such an extreme way that it makes me go, I don't understand that. How does that happen? That's crazy. That's ridiculous. But like I said, the real opportunity in this situation where we as a country are seemingly so divided is to reach across that barrier of understanding and try and at least get and respect how a person got there. And I believe that with Hillary, and I believe that with Trump. Like, I'm not a huge fan of anybody. I am not a fan of any of our options in this situation. And I'm very, I've been thinking quite methodically for the last couple of months what I'm going to do with my vote. And like I said, not a fan of any of our options. But I do feel as though, people I know and love and respect are huge fans of both of them, of Hillary and of Trump, and are absolutely resolute and sure that theirs is the only candidate that is going to save us from almost instantaneous global Armageddon. And while I can't relate to that, I do my very best to understand how they got there. And I think that's important. And the part of the reason why I don't talk smack about Trump, look, and there's, on both sides of the political fence, there's plenty to play with. I mean, there's folks I know that are Democrats that say Hillary should be indicted, but I'm going to vote for her anyway. Like, what the hell? How do we get to that place where you're like, yeah, really, they should be locked up and in jail, but they've got my vote for most powerful political position in the known universe. That's, while they're a criminal, I'd love to see him in the White House. What the hell, man? What the hell? How did we get there? And that's the interesting part. How do we get there? But the reason I don't talk smack about Hillary and Trump in terms of them being the right or wrong choice for America is because I know that when I do, if I do, I've got some friends that feel very strongly about that, and I'm essentially defecating all over who they are and what they believe. And I don't ever want to do that. So I always try and keep an open mind. But people are definitely voting with their dollar in terms of avoiding Trump's resorts and casinos at this stage in the game because they feel strongly about it. And you know what? I applaud that sort of behavior. Well, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's just like if you're going to take action, top to bottom, but walk it like you talk it. And if you genuinely believe this guy's bad for business, then don't give him yours. And I understand and I respect that. And well, like I said, I respect that.
Yeah.
I'm not weighing in on whether Trump is good or bad for America. But if you believe that, then you should be a person of principle that does what you're going to do without going to the Trump Taj Mahal. unless you're the type of person that definitely has a system that's worked out where you feel like you can absolutely take the house. But, I guess there's always that. What else?
Oh, let's see here. Staying in that term, Hillary Clinton wants to put an extra tax on people making over $5 million a year.
Right, or as Trump calls them, the lower middle class. He is, by his own admission, unbelievably rich. But you know what? What's amazing about Trump, and credit where credit is due. Credit where credit is due with Trump. He is tapped in to the needs and feelings of a marginalized lower and middle class. Like, I don't know about you, but when the housing industry went kaputski, when that happened, I was dutifully paying taxes. I didn't own a home. I didn't have anything going on. I didn't have any money. I was working hard and paying taxes every single year and doing what I did. And I had, on both sides of the fence, I was just like, hold on 1 second. You're telling me my idiot crackhead cousin, who was 3 months behind on his mortgage, is going to get bailed out and he's going to be able to keep that house that he had no right to keep, that he had no right to buy in the first place? How is that? Oh, fine. I'll just continue living in this apartment. He'll not pay for that home and get to live in it through some sort of government subsidy. I can't remember what it was. And then bankers and insurance companies, well, we can't have the economy function without them, so we'll bail them out too. Oh, look, they paid themselves a bunch of bonuses. And I felt like, here I am, like a sucker in the middle, giving handouts to billionaires and losers that had no right to own their home. And I was angry and I was mad, and I felt like I am being fiscally raped by irresponsible people that don't care about that fact. And Trump has tapped into people that feel now the exact way I felt in about 2008 when the housing market went belly up and my tax dollars paid for other people's mistakes. And you know what? He has hit upon something, and I guess this goes back to try and understand why people feel the way they feel, because he is speaking to them. Some people might say he is pandering to them, but he is speaking to them. He is offering them some glimmer of hope. He's offering them an idea of a way forward, and they haven't been offered that in a very long time. Go on.
Yeah. Hillary Clinton actually called Donald Trump, quote, the enemy of the little guy.
And you know why she did that? Because he's making big headway as being friends of the little guy.
Yeah.
It's like highfalutin college graduates with their highfalutin college graduates and the elite of the media and all the way he's painted himself as being sort of like the way he's painted himself as being a man of the people, a friend to the little guy. The only reason Hillary's going after him and calling him the enemy of the little guy is because he's established himself successfully as just that, the friend of the little guy. And she's got to do everything she can to shake that up, rattle his cage a little bit on that front. Because, forget what the media says, forget what the left says, forget what all of Trump's detractors say. The belief is strong amongst people that feel like they've been marginalized, the little guy. And everybody feels. And then, what's interesting about the expression, the little guy? What is it? Who is it? Is it someone that makes less than $50,000 a year, less than $30,000 a year, a person that's lost their job, a person that's on welfare? What exactly is the little guy? The little guy is all of us. We've all felt like the little guy. We all feel like the little guy on a regular basis. Because compared to somebody, we're all the little guy somewhere along the line. And the fact that Trump has managed to tap into that is probably the single most damaging thing to the Hillary campaign. So, yeah, Hillary says Donald Trump is the enemy of the little guy. But very good friends of the little hands guy.
The little hands guy. Not a very underrepresented minority, if you ask me.
You know what's interesting about the whole little hands phenomena? I don't know if you remember how that came about, but like everyone was just like, Donald Trump's talking about the size of his junk.
Right.
We as a society are done for. Trump only had to do that because Marco Rubio, who was dying of death back in the primaries, had to do something to try and stay competitive with Trump. So he said, Trump can't be president. He has little hands. And you know what they say about someone with little hands, don't you? That wasn't Trump's invention. He had to come out and say, like, actually, what I got going on south of the equator is huge. But he only had to do that because someone was trying to play his game and losing at it. It's interesting.
Yeah, man. So,
and besides, I can tell you. You know what? You know what they say. You know what the truth is about guy. Like I've got size 13 feet and big old meat hooks of hands. You know what the truth is about the myth of big hands?
What is that?
Big disappointment when the pants are dropped and it turns out not to be the case. I have it on good authority from many females that is not what they were expecting. And when I say many for me, two or three.
I don't think it takes that many to tell you something like that before the message kind of resonates with you, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's been resonating for a long time.
Ouch. Oh, dude.
Go on.
So, so-called pharma bro, Martin Shkreli, says that he says he thinks Hillary Clinton has Parkinson's disease.
That's the whole big scandal. That's the whole thing that, like, a lot of people are saying, like, hey, why isn't this being addressed by the media? Because there's, like, video floating around of Hillary kind of talking, losing a train of thought and being like, and people are looking at that going, it's a brain aneurysm. She's got a blood clot. She should she should have an MRI and the public should be made public. Like that is the current hot button issue with the right. Hillary Clinton has something integrally wrong with her on a mental health level, or on I guess what would you call it, a neurological level. She's got some sort of neurological problem, whether it be Parkinson's disease, whether it be a blood clot on the brain or something like that. Why is no one addressing this? She's about to be president, and she's like a day and a half away from death or dementia. And that is sort of like that. That's a hot button issue on the right at the moment. And the pharma bro, Martin Shkreli, the guy who wanted to charge like $1,000 a pop for medication that would save people's lives that previously only cost $1, like a guy that bought the rights to this stuff and then jacked up the prices. He's weighed in with his piece of esteemed medical know-how. He says he thinks that she has Parkinson's disease, but I think only because he wants to sell her Parkinson's disease meds at 700 times the cost.
Oh.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So, as we've been discussing at length on the show today, we are a divided country. And I think one of the ways in which we are most divided, I mean, take your pick, there's plenty to choose from, is the way in which we view police officers. Man, I'll never forget being on a subway train in New York City. And there were a whole bunch of cops in the same car. At the time, I was still in this crazy screaming punk rock band. And I remember they were all boisterous. They were all happy. They were all celebrating something. And one of them started talking to me. And I was like, what's the deal? Why you guys, you on your way to a party? And they're like, oh, man, we're all cadets. We've just graduated. I was like, no kidding. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being willing to do the things that you're going to do. Thank you for being willing to put your lives in front of being willing to put your lives on the line for the safety of others. And like, oh yeah, thanks, yeah. And I actually, all the way from Queens to Midtown, I talked to them. And most of them were just the type of person that inspired such confidence. Most of them were the type of people that inspired such confidence that their heart was in the right place, and because of that, you could trust them with your life. There were a couple, though, that I was talking to. I remember there's one guy who was older, late 30s, early 40s. And I was like, why'd you become a cop? And he was like, well, I don't know. I just tried other things, didn't work out. I thought I'd give this a go. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. And I remember there was this short, butch female who was like, man, I cannot wait to stick it to the recruits the way we've had it stuck to us for the entire time we've been in training. I was like, that doesn't seem healthy. But as we're chatting, I got speaking to some other folks, and they were like, well, what do you do? Like, you know, we're all cops now. What do you do? I was like, oh, well, I'm in a band. And like, oh, do you play New York City? I was like, sometimes, you know, we're kind of based here now, but, you know, like yeah, sure. Well, where have you played in New York City? Anywhere we might have seen you? And at the time, there was this fantastic venue in New York called Roseland. The Roseland Ballroom. Playing that place, selling it out. That was a moment when you know you've arrived. At least in New York City. The New York crowd is tough to win over. There's a million things to do in New York every single night. If someone goes, I got $50 and I'm going to go out tonight, their options are literally endless. So if you can get people into a room in New York City, if you can pack a house like Roseland in New York City and have it go well, that's a magical moment. Like, oh, Roseland, that's fantastic. That's so cool. I was like, yeah, actually, that was a really cool night. And there was this one cop who was like, I went to see Rage Against the Machine play there once. I was like, no kidding. Amazing band. How was that? They're like, ooh, I had to leave. People got really crazy. There was a mosh pit. I had to go. I was like, On the one hand, we've got a selection of folks that I absolutely trust with my life just because you can tell what they've got in their hearts. And you can tell that they're brave and ready to cope with everything that life throws them as a cop. It's a tremendously inspiring thing to be around. But on the other hand, I did talk to 3 people, one of whom was a guy that was beating the crap out of his 30s, couldn't figure his life out. So he was like, I'll be a cop. Another person who was only too eager to use her authority to step on others. And then someone who couldn't take the heat in a pit at a Rage Against the Machine concert. It's a crazy pit, but if that is going to throw you, then I don't know if you need a badge and a gun anytime real soon. Because if you can't handle the pit, a mosh pit at a Rage Against the Machine show, how are you going to deal with what being a New York City cop throws at you? And so we are divided. We do have a tremendous amount of stress and tension that exists in America now with regard to the role of police officers. And the folks that I feel when there is, look, let's just say it now. There are racists. There are unbalanced, aggressive racists in every single walk of life. One of which is going to be being a cop. Every single profession, every single career, every single segment of society is going to have bad apples. Apples that should be locked up. And the police force is no different. But the folks that I feel the worst for in this situation are the other cops. The ones who've been put in incredibly dangerous, precarious situations by the folks that are not really there to uphold the law. Because it erodes their sense of authority. It erodes the sense of trust that they've established in the community. It erodes everything that they have done, everything they have worked for, and it makes their job 10,000 times more dangerous. And for that reason, anytime I get a chance, I've got lots of friends who are cops. Anytime I get a chance to help people understand what goes through the mind of so many of the men and women that protect and serve us every single day, I take it. Here's an unbelievably sad story that shows just how important the cops are to all of us. An officer in Franklin, Ohio, came across a 7-year-old boy wandering the streets by himself trying to sell his teddy bear and get money for food. Kid hadn't eaten in days. So the officer took him to Subway, ate with him, then took him to the station to get help.
Would like to go home at the end of the day feeling like they've done something positive and had some kind of positive impact. It broke my heart. He told me that he was trying to sell a stuffed animal to get money for food because he hadn't eaten in several days. I said a little prayer and ate dinner together.
They treated them like their own kids. And that's exactly what law enforcement does in situations like this, is how would we want someone to treat our kids? Cockroaches, urine, cat urine, human urine. Hopefully these officers' actions change these kids' lives and maybe change the lives of the parents to become better parents.
So I would do everything I can to remember that there are those who are focused on going through lives like that, because they're a part of an organization that serves and protects our community. They will view the children of that community as their own and treat them as such, because that is what drives them. That is who they are. That is what they want to do with their lives. Serve and protect those that need protection and service. All right, Dave Hines, how much time do we have left?
We've got a couple minutes here.
Got a couple minutes. Let's talk about Gary Johnson.
For a
momentito, shall we? Because this is very interesting.
I'm interested
folks
in this.
Folks over at Politico have reported that, quote, the venues that will host the presidential debates are drawing up plans for a 3-person forum that would provide a lectern, one of those things people stand on when they're debating, for a third-party candidate to stand on stage next to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The directive comes from producers working for the Commission on Presidential Debates, and it's meant, they say, to force the university host to be prepared and not as a reflection of the state of the race. Commission on Presidential Debates co-chair Mike McCurry says with former Governor Gary Johnson polling in some places more than double digits, they might have some of our production people might have said, just in case you need to get a plan of what this might look like. So they're not saying he's going to be there, but this is kind of monumental stuff. You got to be polling at 15%, I think, to be allowed to be a part of the presidential debates. And, if you're cracking double digits, that's a good portion of the way there. You a fan of the Gary Johnson phenomena, Dave Hines?
Yeah, I like the third party. I probably lean more libertarian in my own personal views. I don't know that I go far enough to put that label on and join the party, but I definitely want those other ideas that I think are, some common sense stuff maybe that's not hitting the two main parties. I'm looking forward to hearing just a third voice,
Well, I think the idea of a libertarian is an interesting and nebulous concept because, I suppose if push comes to shove and I was forced to define myself, I would say I was conservative yet independent. And the moment you say I'm a conservative independent, I'm conservative fiscally, and liberal socially, live your life as long as you're not hurting anyone, lower my taxes and stay the hell off my lawn. That's kind of how I go through my life. And the moment you say that, libertarian folks are like, oh, you're a libertarian. And you go, am I? Yeah, you are. You think just like us. Now come over to our place, shoot guns and smoke pot. I'm like, oh, see, that's so the libertarian tag encompasses so much. You could be a right-leaning libertarian, a left-leaning libertarian, and I think that's part of the problem. Is it's a bit of a nebulous concept, and pot-smoking redneck is what a lot of people associate with libertarian. And look, if you're a pot-smoking redneck and you relate to that, fantastic. But if you're not, it's a bit of an alienating concept. So that being the case, I think anything that. And that's the thing. Libertarianism is a bit of a moving target as well. I mean, generally speaking, there are folks that want to shrink government, do away with as many regulations. They believe in personal freedom and personal liberties. And they also want to, they also have an attitude in general of live and let live. Hey, if you're not hurting me, if you're not doing anything that's going to damage, the way I go through my life, then far be it from me to prevent you from pursuing happiness as is laid down in the founding paperwork of our nation. It's just like that's the thing. And so anything that shines a bit of a light on this is a fantastic thing. I don't know if you'd ever want to register as a libertarian. I mean, look, the whole idea of being asked to register as anything
Yeah.
is Looney Tunes to me. And it's like they want to avoid, they would love it if you just, if critical thinking wasn't a part of your voting process. To take part in the primaries, you gotta be a registered something or other. And that is so fundamentally wrong. It really is, because like what they're saying is like, you gotta register as this.
Yeah.
We know we can count on your vote. Now just don't think about it and vote for us. That's the only way you're allowed to be a part of the primaries, is if you are just willing to go, stand up and be counted and knee-jerk react to, what my party decides to do. And that's what they want. They want you to not think for yourselves. They want you to put yourself in a situation where you go, I vote Republican, or I vote Democrat. And to me, that is absolutely antithetical to what being a libertarian is all about. And there's so many different definitions of what being a libertarian is all about, but the idea of just, planting your flag somewhere and just going with what the company line is absolutely, it flies in the face of the idea of freedom as a principle, as laid down in, like I said, those documents on which our country was established. So it's just it's a little ridiculous to think that people are going to register as libertarians, because the whole idea to me of being a libertarian is anti-registration.
Right.
Like I don't need to be on a list. Thank you. No, but it is really, really interesting to see where this is going. And there is so much Looney Tunes. There's so much, like back in the day, a libertarian was regarded as being a fringe wackadoo candidate. Mm-hmm. To get the vote of the left, to get the left firmly cemented behind her, Hillary had to pull way further left than she's been in the past. Like, it's just necessary. You want to out Bernie the Bernie supporters, you got to do so. You have to act in a somewhat radical way to bring them over to your side. The whole Trump phenomenon is a result of people not feeling as though the right wing represents them and their right wing or conservative needs. That's not, you're a rhino, you're a Republican in name only, F off back to the Democratic side of the fence. You liar, you lie. Your pants are literally on fire. So I'm going to go with a more extreme option, which is the Ted Cruz's and Donald Trump's of this world. That's far, far right. So in a world that has seemingly gotten more and more extreme on both sides of the political fence, this former fringe wackadoo party known as the Libertarian Party seems to be a cooler head that stands a better and better chance every single day of prevailing. We'll wait and see where this goes. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you, Dave Hines. We'll be back tomorrow and do it all over again.
You know how other times you feel like it's cool to turn